Ladies and gentlemen, just a short introduction about Malta in this period. It was a British colony. It had a representative local assembly. Basically, it had to obey whatever, as far as foreign affairs, it had to obey whatever London dictated. And she was compelled to take Jewish refugees in the Turkish-Italian War in 1914 from Libya, again prisoners of war in the First World War, Russian refugees, and immediately after the Russian refugees from Smyrna. The imminent entry of communist forces into Smyrna was expected as the month of September approached, September 1922. By 4th September, plans had been secured for the evacuation of British nationals. Admiral Brock, Commander-in-Chief of the British Royal Navy Mediterranean Fleet, informed naval authorities in Malta and Constantinople about the large number of fleeing civilians, a number of them British subjects, who predictably were moved to Cyprus and Malta due to the dependency of these colonies on the empire. Some of these Levantines also ended up in Cyprus. Reverend Charles Dobson, an Anglican clergyman, was a key link used to trace British subjects living around Smyrna. He actively used his experience and position to good effect in those last frantic days. He was repeatedly called upon to intercede on behalf of terror-stricken people of all nationalities. Reverend Dobson and his family soon joined the Malta-bound refugees late in September 1922. They spent only a month there and left for Italy on 23rd October 1922. In parenthesis, while in Italy he witnessed the Mussolini's seizure of power in the Marshall Room. Here we see a picture of a British passport, which was very much revered by anybody who had the opportunity to own one. That name reads Barker, but his passport was confiscated because he obtained it by false pretenses. Actually, his name was Athanasios Varkaioglu. I have a problem in pronouncing Greek names, except for Papadopoulos, that's the only one I remember. The first group of refugees disembarked in Malta on 15 September 1922. All in all, some 540 refugees landed in Malta between the 15th September and the 10th December 1922, arriving in 10 voyages, namely Maine, Bavaria, King George V, Karnak, Carnaro twice, Pierlotti, Adria, and Empress of India. About 1,400 passengers held a British passport. Half of them were perceived to be of Maltese extraction, though only 6 actually were born in Malta. A small number of refugees consisted of Cypriots, Dutch, Egyptians, Swiss, and French, and a tribal number of Americans, Armenians, Italians, Swedes, and Ottoman Turks. The largest minority among the refugees was Greek, mostly former employees of important Levantine clans. The more affluent refugees could afford to leave Malta as promptly as possible, and did so by the end of 1922. This totaled 32% of refugees that disembarked. Their stay averaged 30 days, with the shortest being not 3 days. Some of the longer stays totaled 100 days. Some people stayed even longer, such as one John Chile I mentioned later. Refugees came mostly in family groups, while a few were accompanied by their servants. One of the young refugees who later made a name for himself was Alec Sidonis, the automobile designer who created the best-selling Mini and the popular Smyrna, who was accompanied by his mother, Hulda, and father, Constantine, who was blind. Constantine spent most of his time in Malta in hospital, where he died on the 1st June 1923, and was later buried at Tabraxia Cemetery outside Valletta. In parentheses, one can say that that's the only memorial in Malta about this story, about the saga of Smyrna. Other noteworthy names include the widows, 70 members of the entire family and other relatives, such as Charnoz and the Gals, ended up in Malta. Herbert Octavius Whittle, head of this extended family, grew disheartened with the reversibility of the flight from Smyrna and retreated to Tunisia, where he died. There were very few detailed accounts left by refugees on what they endured in their own paradise laws. They were mostly concerned about some financial grievances. An exception was that of Dr. Alexander McLachlan, principal of the American College, the International College in Paradise, Smyrna. As soon as he landed in Malta, he delivered a lengthy report to Mason Mitchell, U.S. Consul in Malta, which highlighted how the college had given shelter to people fleeing their homes as the capitalist forces advanced, and explained the conditions forcing him and others to ultimately abandon Smyrna. Out of the 70 arrivals, of the 70 Greek arrivals in Malta, only 20 remained by the end of 1922. There were protracted discussions between the Maltese imperial government and the Greek consulate in Malta over the reimbursement to the Maltese government of expenses incurred in the housing, feeding, and the repatriation of Greek refugees. Although the numbers in Malta were a mere fraction of the hundreds of thousands who fled Greece, Nicholas Kalegeropoulos, Greek foreign minister, initially refused to accept liability. After their arrival in Malta, several Greek-speaking refugees who had declared British citizenship just to be granted the passage out of Smyrna started to claim Greek passports in order to settle in Greece. The Greek diaspora in Malta consisted of about 30 well-to-do families, 14 of which, together with the Greek Ladies Charitable Fund, contributed financially towards the welfare of their compatriots. That's a list of contributions by Greek living in Malta. You can identify the Greek surnames. One of them was Petrokokino. It was mentioned earlier in the lecture about chaos. Providing humanitarian relief to the Smyrna refugees was a moment endeavor. At the time, Malta had a lean bureaucracy trained to deal with a variety of tasks and rose to the occasion despite the evident challenge. The arrival of these refugees coincided with a new constitutional situation in Malta. In 1921, the Maltese islands were granted self-government, coupled with hierarchy. While the Maltese government was in charge of internal affairs, the imperial government was responsible for defense and foreign affairs. Prime Minister Joseph Howard, formerly a director of a Greek company operating in Malta, held that the Malta government should not be financially responsible for the maintenance of any Smyrna refugees. He urged that all refugees, Maltese included, should be repatriated to Smyrna as soon as possible.
10 minutes.
This was also largely the wish of many refugees themselves. Admiral Brock instructed Captain Tersfield and the British Vice Consul Urquhart, both in Smyrna, to draft a report about the desirability of return of British subjects previously domiciled in Asia Minor. The report conveyed that the nationalist government in Angora did not recognize any consular representatives of the governments only recently at war with Turkey. It was observed that many properties had been destroyed. Commercial operations were at a complete standstill. All non-Turkish employees were dismissed immediately after the exodus and were replaced by Turks. In due course, though a few stayed in Malta, many refugees were relocated to several countries, such as Argentina, Australia, Canada, Cyprus, Egypt, France, Greece, Italy, Lebanon, Portugal, Serbia, South Africa, United Kingdom, and United States. Those headed to Greece found themselves in such places as Athens, Chios, Corfu, Crete, Alexandroupolis, Kokinia, Larissa, Lesbos, Patras, Piraeus, Rhodes, Samos, Syros, and Thessaloniki. As time went on, Greece developed the infrastructure to accommodate not only Smyrna refugees, but also those Greeks formerly residing in Ottoman territories. Consequently, out of 770 refugees repatriated from Malta, stretching from 1923 to 1930, 70% ended up in Greece. The so-called Maltese refugees who ultimately succeeded in returning to Smyrna were distrusted by the Turkish authorities as they were considered Greeks in disguise. Unwanted twice over, in Malta, the country of their ancestors, and Smyrna, their birthplace, they pinned on Greece, which they considered their homeland, their only hope for acceptance. Still, they were reluctant to exchange their British passport for a number of reasons, including the abhorrence of conscription. Every refugee has his own story. This is a family. John Chiria was born in Smyrna, who was a British subject and entitled for protection. Therefore, he boarded the Bavarian bound for Malta, where he and his family arrived on 18 September 1922. Eventually, they were repatriated to Greece with a group of refugees who left Malta between 1st July 1924 and 11th March 1925. He settled in Kokinia. This was one of the largest quarters established near Piraeus. This was the largest refugee quarters established in Piraeus. His name reappears in the 1935 records of the British consul in Athens as an applicant for British relief. He was once more destitute after attempting to make a living out of selling homemade cakes, itself an occupation relying on favorable weather conditions. His fragile subsistence has been aggravated by the flooding of his home. The government of Malta disowned him and the relief was denied, on the pretext that he had already received financial assistance during the years he spent in Malta. Smyrna refugees settled from Malta to Greece were granted alien status and subject to working and residence permits. Over time, it was therefore natural for some to seek to acquire Greek citizenship. Most were married to Greek women. In Patras, the issue was encouraged and complicated by Italian fascist propaganda and money. Indeed, some people elected to change citizenship from British to Italian rather than Greek. The British diplomatic mission in Athens faced a constant stream of work because of complaints from destitute Maltese residing in Greece. Financially vulnerable, whether in Malta or in Greece, relied on some form of relief for their subsistence. As mentioned earlier, they consider themselves ethnically closer to Greece, despite the rules of a British colony. Another, Francis Chilia, was a classical example of how Smyrnians clung to the illusion of an eventual return to their hometown. Chilia, a blind refugee, would not work because of his condition, yet he petitioned in person at the office of the Lieutenant Governor in Valletta to arrange for his return and his wife to Smyrna. Yet being blind, he wouldn't be able to see the beauty of Smyrna. His plea was dismissed instantly. One very important refugee was the Ottoman Sultan himself, Mehmed VI. He left Constantinople for Malta on 17 November 1922. He stayed there for a month as a guest of the British authorities, enjoying comforts most other refugees at that time could only wish for. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me share my research with you. I wish to thank the directors of the Levantine Foundation for the organization of this conference. So allow me to finish with the words expressed by Dr. Victoria Solomonides. I think Smyrna in Greece lives everywhere. Smyrna is the way I like my life. Smyrna is an ocean. You don't have to see it. Smyrna is an inclusive noun. It contains all the traditions, laments, laughter, celebration. Smyrna has all these things and much more. You don't have to live in Greece to experience Smyrna. You can pack it and carry it with you all the time.